Paula Michelle. Welcome to the 21-day Love and Abundance Challenge. Tell everybody who you are and who you help.
Hi, guys. So, my name is Paula, and basically, I help people with their spiritual journey whilst also at the same time keeping it relatable. I create a lot of content around that and also the self-love and healing journey.
Yeah, and you even have a podcast now called
hmm
Spiritually Relatable.
I do. I do. I know last time we spoke about it, I've always been wanting to start a podcast, but I think also with a lot of the content creation, it's just been a lot of work to do. And I wanted to make sure I was like open, willing, and I had enough time to do that. And I've been sitting on spiritually relatable for a long time. And there's many reasons why that name kept popping up. And it's because during my healing journey and this discovery of who am I, what I came here to do, what is my purpose here on earth, but also I wanted to keep it relatable because I feel like in the spiritual community, we can get so caught up in this energy of it's all light and love and it's all happiness and we have to be so excited. And I was like, I am not experiencing any of that. Like, I'm like, am I doing something wrong? I was like, because I am not experiencing any of those things. I am. And at the same time, it coexists with that duality of sadness, grief, and anger. And I feel like these things weren't spoken about enough. So I wanted to bring awareness of what it means to be in this human experience while learning all these lessons and going through these trials and tribulations and ultimately using that as a way to bring humor and light to sometimes what I feel like is a little bit of darkness. So yeah, I created it spiritually relatable and it's also talking about uncensored subjects because on TikTok and Instagram and even on YouTube, it tends to be very censored. It's almost like this box you have to fit. And a lot of the topics are really taboo. And part of my authenticity journey and healing as I'm discovering new parts of myself and also integrating a lot of parts of myself is sharing the raw and the real and also the not so perfect parts and speaking more unapologetically of who I am and like what this journey is doing for me. So that's a little bit of what the podcast pretty much is about.
Yeah, and so that's actually how I found you initially is you had created a video on TikTok where you were talking about spiritually depressing versus spiritually progressing. Tell
Yeah.
us a little more about that and what that phrase actually means.
So, yeah, that was a video I actually made on a whim. And I was just like going through these experiences and like these emotions. And I'm like, okay, emotions are energy in motion. So, this is like things that need to be released. And I remember it literally came from my soul. I was sitting down, I was like, wow, I feel like I should be spiritually progressing, but I feel like I'm spiritually depressing. And then quickly enough, that became a thing. And it's like there are many like dips and divots that you go through on this self-healing journey. And I feel like we shun it so much. And I just wanted to show myself in a moment of like vulnerability and in a moment where I felt like I don't see enough people doing. There's a lot of people that I also look up to, a lot of friends, a lot of people that I know on and off of social media. And I'm like, I feel like everyone's on their journey, but like, why are we not talking about enough, like the reality of what it entails to heal and how messy it can be? And how sometimes, even though I'm about to be 30, I'm still figuring certain things out. It's okay. My life looks so much different than my ego and my shadow allowed me to believe it was going to look. It's like being flexible is very important. And I wanted to capture that for people and just be very authentic in that and just tell people, like, hey, it's okay. It's okay to feel like you're regressing instead of progressing. And it's okay to have these doubts and you should embrace everything. There's no healing without feeling. And part of every emotion that comes up is teaching you something in regards to an aspect of yourself that you haven't healed, haven't integrated, or haven't uncovered. And I think me being such a fixed person and I always tell people, I'm like, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I say recovering because we're still in the process of undoing that. And I feel like I had to control everything in my life. And from the way I looked, from what I ate, for all these things. And those were just coping mechanisms that I was I was unhealed with. And I felt like I had to project this idea of perfection. And if I wasn't perfect or my content wasn't perfect, and Jason, we've talked about this before, I've held myself from posting content because there was a little piece of hair sticking up like this. And I was like, girl, that's ridiculous. Like, what this content is amazing. It's gonna help so many people. And I'm like sitting in my ego thinking, I'm not gonna post it because my little hair is standing up like this. No, come on. So those are things and traumas and unhealed patterns that I had learned from infancy, and some of which I brought from previous lifetimes. And I felt like I wasn't safe to show up as myself authentically and just be me. That wasn't enough. There was a fear around that. And the more I carried that fear, the more that intervened in my relationships too. I was attracting people that were just mirroring, I love you, but to a certain extent. Because I was doing that with myself. I was like capping myself out of fear of being too controversial or being too much or taking up too much space. And part of my healing journey has been like, no, like I'm going to be me. And everyone who's on board with that, then amazing. And if you're not, then amazing. There's about 7 billion people and creators out there that maybe suit you better, and that's okay. But I'm not going to change who I am for the simple fact of fitting in. And I think that has opened a lot, as a whole.
No, I totally get that. And I love how you, every time we talk, it's like you're like, oh, and I'm almost 30. Yeah, it's so interesting because at 46, I'm sitting here. Yeah, it's the school of life, man. Like we sit here and we
Uh,
go through all this stuff, and there's all these different versions of you that have existed and will exist in different periods of time. And when you
mhm.
look back at those different versions, you have to do it with a little bit of grace and gratitude for where you've been. And yeah, you know what? Those certain time periods weren't great. They weren't amazing. They weren't
Yeah.
awesome. They weren't perfect. Of course they
Mhm.
weren't. You're learning, you're growing, you're expanding, you're developing, you're integrating, you're figuring things
Yeah.
out for the first time, or maybe you're going through it for the 10th time and you just still haven't captured the meaning or the lesson from that
Mhm.
experience. And that's why we do programs like this, because it allows you the opportunity to sit back and go, oh, there's a lot of people that are just like me. They're struggling, they're going through it, they're having a hard time.
Yeah.
They recognize that I don't like the way things have been going and it's time to
Yeah.
do something different and to create a little bit of change in my life. But how do I start? And what's the first step? And what am I supposed to do? It's why those videos on Instagram and TikTok do so well. Here's 5 steps for this and 3 steps for that. But at the same time, I want you guys, when you see those types of videos, to take it all with a grain of salt because
Yeah.
it can oftentimes make you feel like, man, they really got it all figured out. And it's no, they just looked at creator search insights, looked at other videos, looked in the comment section, built out a script, gave it to you, and it's really helpful information, but you're not
Mhm.
intended to be super perfect with it. It's for you to learn and grow and develop and expand and create a new version of you or the version that you're capable of becoming down the road. We're always becoming something, but what we become is always up to you. So now with manifestation and energy work, this is always a fun line of questioning. Many people struggle with trust in the manifestation process. What's the biggest misconception about manifestation that you wish people understood?
That's a great question. So, one of the biggest things I see people, like clients, friends, and even myself included, is that there is a belief in manifestation. There's two energies at play, there's the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And this is regardless of gender, these are just energies. Masculine is the doing, so the divine action. But the divine action cannot take place without the desire first. So you have to have a desire, and then it's followed by divine action. I think the biggest misconception is that if you believe it, you'll see it. And there is a certain truth of that, but the universe does not work. And I'm speaking from personal experience. You can repeat things till you turn blue, but unless you believe it at the core of your being and you relax into it, it's gonna take longer to come. It'll come eventually. That is one of the biggest things I've learned. Everything comes in time and it's divine time. And I think as humans, we get so caught up in the when, the how, the who. And ultimately, we're not responsible for any of those questions. We're just responsible for the what and why. What do you desire and why do you desire that? And then it's putting the desire out there, so feminine energy, and then allowing for that masculine energy to come through, which is the action, the inspired action to make it happen. One thing I also see a lot of people do, and I thought this was true as well, it's, oh, I'm just going to desire it and it's just going to come. It's just going to fall on my lap. And in some cases, yes. And in other cases, no, because we're multifaceted beings. So we do, and we also receive. But I think at the end of the day, it's that core belief. If you're trying to manifest a lifestyle that's $1 million lifestyle, but you don't believe that you're worthy of, let's say, $100 per session, how do you expect yourself to get yourself to that million lifestyle if $100 feels uncomfortable in your body? So it really is the belief system. And I feel like I finally understood this when I understood, oh my God, there's still things inside of myself that I feel unworthy of. There's a part of me that feels guilty or shame around receiving this thing, even though I want it. And I'm like telling myself, and I'm doing my little subliminals, and I'm like journaling, and I'm practicing gratitude. I'm blocking it my own self because I'm not, I don't think I'm worthy of receiving that. There's a guilt, there's a shame, there's a block there. In the Kabbalah, they usually talk about all you have to know is your why, your desire and your why as to that desire. And then it's allowing the Most High to come through because you already are worthy of receiving. Everybody deserves love. Everybody deserves abundance. Everybody deserves peace, joy, health. And it is those blockages within ourselves, that those little inner critics, those beliefs that we think of that prevent us from manifesting. But I think the biggest key takeaway, especially within the young generation, is that it's just going to happen. I don't have to lift a finger. It's just going to happen. And the reality is, let's say you're manifesting to God, Hashem, the Most High, whoever you resonate with, and you're saying, hey, like you're communing with spirit because you're co-creating. So there is a divine plan, a destined plan, and then there is your free will. That's what love is, your free will. And you're saying, I want to manifest love, but then again, you're staying at home all the time. So you're like, oh, it's just gonna fall in my lap. I see this in women so much all the time. Like when I talk to them, it's just gonna come. No, like I don't mean just stay home. Staying home is great. Working on yourself is great. And here's how manifestation works. Let's say you want to manifest love and you're not leaving your house. It'll come through as a friend inviting you out, let's say for drinks. And you're like, oh, that's odd. Like this friend never typically invites me out, but just so happens one night they do. That is your invitation from the universe to step out there. So you're asking, so the desire was given, there's the action. But it's up to you to discern whether you want to take that action or not. It's up to you. It's free will, right? You're never going to miss what's for you. And you can complicate it, right? Like all roads lead to Rome, but there are some less hard ones that you can take. So it's the same thing for manifestation, right? And I see it all the time. And I did this too. I was like, oh, yeah, if I manifest hard enough, it's just going to be like a genie's just going to appear and it's just going to give me everything I want. And then spirits, no, we love you. We love that. But that's not the way life works. It's equal action, rest, and action. They coexist together. So you also have to take initiative with the things you want to manifest. So if that's love, doesn't mean that you have to be desperate, but it means that your energy should remain open. So if you're at a coffee shop, someone approaches you, boom, you feel the energy, you engage. If you don't, then you don't, right? But I think the biggest key misconception is that you just have to think it, that's it, and then it'll happen. And it's no, you have to believe it, truly believe it, and feel it because the universe at the end of the day only knows vibration, not even words. The only thing that makes words powerful is the vibration behind them. So if you say, I'm rich, but your energy is like, bro, I'm not rich, you're not going to hit that, right? So it's all energy. And I think that's what's important is you have to feel it to manifest it.
So, what role does visualization play in this? And do you have a process for visualization?
I think visualizing goes hand in hand with feeling. Because
Mhm.
as humans, and it also depends what kind of learner you are. So if you're a kinesthetic learner, you need physical action. That's what's going to help you understand and really digest what you're trying to manifest. So, for example, I have a vision board right next to me and I look at it every morning. And I'm also very mindful that I'm really flexible with it. That is just an outline. It doesn't mean that everything exactly has to be as it is. That's also another thing that blocks manifestations. And a great story that I always say of this, which is so silly, but it's like the Doc Martens story. I wanted this pair of boots, and this is when I was younger. And Doc Martens were really expensive for me when I was young. So I was like, oh, I'm going to make it a goal to get these Doc Martens. And I was like, I want these Doc Martens. I want these Doc Martens. I have to get these Doc Martens. So my manifestation is I want the boots, but I'm blocking it because I'm so set that the boots need to come through me. I have to do it. Right. I'm very determined to save money for that. And long story short, I ended up getting the Doc Martens, but I ended up getting them as a gift from my parents. So my manifestation still occurred, but it didn't happen the way I had perceived it to be. So the thing about manifestation is we will get our manifestation, and sometimes it's not going to look 100% like our ego convinced us it's going to look. So maybe you thought you'd get married by 30, but really you're getting married at 40. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You're still getting your manifestation. So there's what we call balance in knowing what you want and also being flexible like the bamboo. It's like you're visualizing this is what you want, right? This is the outline of what you want. That's okay. Visualization allows you to understand what you want, be clear, and also modify in certain areas where you might need to, and also remain flexible that it might look different. Let's say you're asking for a car and ideally you wanted white. Maybe it's the perfect car and it comes a little extra and then it's like blue, but it's the car you want. So I know those are silly examples. There's like bigger ones, but it's about flexibility, I think. And I think visualizing things helps you create this outline, but it's also remaining flexible because it might not come in a day, just like it might. I've seen people manifest instantly because they believe it so much. They're like, "Oh, it's happened. I'm chilling." And then I've seen people take longer. So the timing, there really is no timing to things. It's more about alignment. We just perceive that as time because here in the human world, that's how it works. That's how it works, is the illusion of time. But really, it's all about vibration. And it's also about, we're all very interconnected. So, your manifestations, and a great example for this is my partner. I was manifesting my partner for a long time. And I was like, why is this man not getting here? Is he stuck in a tree or something? Like, by this point, I've done everything I can. Like, what is taking forever? And it was a very humbling experience because when I met him, I realized, wow, this whole entire time, he was also going through his journey to getting ready so that we could align. Because had we met a year before, this would have not been compatible, like at all. That also taught me the respect to divine timing. Sometimes we don't understand why certain things happen, but then we look back and we go, whoa, I can see now why I had to do this and I had to do that. So that's also part of like flexibility. And again, the reference that my teacher always taught me is like being flexible like the bamboo. It's you're still strong, you see your vision, you see your goals, but you're flexible with the wind because it might take you here, there might be detours. And that's part of mindfulness. It's not about perfection, it's just about being flexible. And it's the same thing with manifestation, right? It's like visualizing is amazing because now you have that desire, you're putting the why, and you're also putting it into existence. Now you're creating it. So now you're setting out an outline. Now the universe, God goes, okay, now I'm seeing what they want to create. Now it's game. So we can work with this. It's like a ping pong ball, right? You co-create with the universe. I tell you what I want. It tells me, okay, yeah, that's in alignment. Cool. That's not in alignment. Okay, detour. Let's go back. So it's a lot of flexibility and a dance is really what it is. So for me, visuals are amazing. I'm a visual person. And also physical action is a real thing. So if I want to be an example like a YouTuber, then I know I have to post those videos and I have to commit to that. So there's my vision. Okay, what does that look like? This looks like this. And I'm also flexible. I'm also understanding and being practical. It's a balance that I'm not just going to go 0 to 100. I'm going to take slow, systematic steps. I also have to understand and have compassion that my ego is going to be like, we didn't get a million views in the first video. I don't want to do this anymore. So now that's your inner child. So now you work with that. You go, okay, slow progress is still progress. It's not sustainable to go 0 to 100. I have this goal and I'm going to commit to this. The biggest thing is commitment. So, yeah, I would say that's a little bit of the duality of it and manifestation.
You gave us so much to chew on. This is why I love our conversations because they carry on and it's always so interesting. I want to go back up to you can't manifest a partner from the couch. I have a friend and she's in that position right now, lives in a very populated place, has access to a
Mm-hmm.
very large network, but is having difficulty in that space of just finding that
Yeah.
relationship. Part of it is it's like your energy is so drained by the time that you get out and you're hanging with your friends and you're doing whatever, you're interacting with them, and you're just not in that space where you have that energy where you're allowing people to come into like
Mhm.
your sphere of influence. You're
Yeah.
actually rejecting and pushing things away even though you're out and trying to have a good time and you just don't recognize it because you're not in tune or in alignment, right, with your goals, your values, and what you're looking for in this moment. The other part of it is I always tease her. I'm like, maybe it's the Uber Eats guy. You order enough from Uber Eats, it could be him and he could have a startup. You never know.
Yeah.
So maybe he does show up at your door. It could happen.
It's so funny that you say that because I remember my two best friends, they're married and they had a joint bachelor's and bachelorette. We've talked about this before. And about a couple months ago, before I met my partner, I had spoken to them and I was telling them, I'm like, hey, these things are going great. And I feel like love is still the other piece to it. And I remember my friend John, he said, he's like, we were talking, all of us were talking. And they said, you have to make space though. Because right now, realistically, you're working so much, you're holding so much space for these things, but maybe this area you're not making enough space for. And I remember I would ask them, obviously, because they were married, and I would ask them, like, what are relationships? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I love learning from people. And I love keeping my close friends and I love admiring them and observing the things that they're successful of. And then they do the same thing for me. And I remember they said, make space. If you want to eventually have kids, if you want to have a boyfriend or a husband, you have to eventually start making space. It's the same thing for dating. Is can the person come and find you at your house? Absolutely. Like you cannot miss what is for you and who is for you. I genuinely mean that. And I've seen this with like partnerships, like content with people, with friends. Like you cannot miss it, but you can delay it and complicate it. And where we want to be in life is the path of least resistance. So, what does that mean? Is like where you're having effort, but you're also having ease. It's not a constant effort. And I see that a lot in romantic relationships. Like people want to manifest love, but in order to have love, you have to be vulnerable, which means you need to put yourself out there. Especially if you're wanting a long life partner, it's all about authenticity. Because a lot of people, the problem is they're not showing up as the highest version of themselves or their true authentic self. So when they get in partnership, the person that they're with is essentially falling in love with this facade or this fake version of themselves. And people don't do this on purpose. It's more so of this fear, right, of vulnerability or this fear of authenticity or this fear of being seen. And it happens more often than not. And I'm 1,000% convinced that it's all about divine timing. It's all about vibration. And it's also all about self love, really, is really what it is.
I want to go back again. I'm going to keep going back to stuff, by the way, that the boots have to come through me. I think that's so relevant, especially to where I'm at right now. So I made a pivot from law enforcement to do content creation. With that, I was injured, neck injury, shoulder surgery, all that stuff. You look at what you have the capability of doing with your bachelor's, your master's, and all these years of experience doing all these different things, all the different trainings. So I took and I used all that information to build out everything that I've done here. So now there's 640,000 followers across all platforms. And that's happened in 2.5, close to 3 years. So really
Mhm.
cool. But with that, I had this expectation that if you build it, they will come. And at some level, they have. But then you start looking at the business aspect of
Mhm.
this, and we're all horrible at sales because we really just want to help people at the end of the day. And I could care less about sales, but you have to get good at it if you want to be able to pay your mortgage and thrive and do all of those things. But I had this expectation of it had to come through me. I have to be the one to make this transition. I built this out. I created the following. We have the podcast. It's helping a lot of people. We have the testimonials, and I did that in
Mhm.
collaboration with all of these people. And then
Mhm.
the business aspect, I don't want to hand that over, but that asking for help, I think is such a key ingredient in being willing to accept the help and recognizing that just because you had an idea of how it was going to happen, you have to be open to all the other possibilities that are out there. That the road that you were on, it could be a really long road, right? But by asking for help, by seeking that out or allowing for it to come in for you, you shorten up your path significantly by allowing that to happen. So I love that you mentioned that our paths don't have to be so clearly defined, that we can be detached from the outcome
Mhm.
and allow those things to come in for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the detachment portion of it is huge. And I know we've talked about that before. Is like for me, I'm such a fixed person. And I've observed that a lot of people are also like that because it's like the human fear is that we're not going to get what we desire. And I've never seen someone not get what they desire. If you really think about it, when you work hard towards something and you really believe it, you don't not get it. But everything is a choice. So, what you think of yourself, how you speak to yourself, what you consume, what you read, what you watch, all of it plays a role into your reality. And you create that. But it's really detachment. It's like you can know where you're headed. And also that's where the reference of being flexible like a bamboo comes in. It's like you have to be malleable with life and also flexible in knowing that there might be detours and might come in different ways. And I know that the boot is like a funny example, but that's literally how it happened is I wanted these boots. I was so like set on it. And I'm like, I have to do it, which is great. It's admirable, right? But it's also not giving enough flexibility for the universe to come in.
So, a relevant question that just came in from Sheree: do we have to have clarity about our desire before being flexible?
I would say yes. I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing that you're responsible, it's not the who, when, how. You don't have to, because a lot of the times people manifest and they say, how is that? If I'm manifesting $10,000, people go, the analytical portion, the masculine energy goes, how is that going to come in? This isn't practical, this and that. So you're not responsible for how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. You are responsible. This is what we call co-creative accountability. You are responsible, though, for defining what and why. That's the only thing the universe and God cares about. Why do you want something and what is it? What is it and why? And the Kabbalah talks about this a lot extensively. Is like you just have to define your why. Oh, you want to create a business? Why? I think that's a valid question. You want to create a business? That's awesome. You want to be of service to people? Why? What kind of business do you want to create? And then you go with flexibility. But I also think it's important to you can also be flexible because we are evolving as humans. There's what we call ascension. So you ascend each time you leave behind old parts of you. And I'm sure everybody on here has experienced moments where they look at themselves back and they're like, whoa, I am not the same person I was a month ago, much less a year ago. That's what we call evolution and ascension. So you're evolving. It's also okay to evolve out of your manifestations. So maybe your goal was 100,000. Now you've reached that. You're grateful for that. Now you set another goal because that you're always meant to be working and striving towards something whilst also giving gratitude. You can be flexible with a lot of things and you can also outgrow certain things. And that's also okay. But your biggest responsibility is the what and why, and then the rest will follow.
And that's why I always add in there, you have to become who you're capable of becoming. There's a lot of different questions you're going to have to ask yourself in that process, but everything that we've
Mm-hmm.
been talking about so far today is leading you into that path of accepting that for yourself, that wow, I can actually have this dream, this goal, this wish, this hope, this desire, and bring it in for myself if only I did what? I got to believe in myself a little bit more, but then I have to take decisive action and do it consistently over long periods of time. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to happen in 6 months. It might not happen in
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks. It might not happen in 5 years. Everybody's story, it's everybody's an overnight success, right? But you didn't see the 10 years before that led into
Yeah.
all of a sudden the blossoming of
Mm-hmm.
everything coming together. Let's shift into relationships. A lot of people in this challenge are working on healing from past heartbreak. What's one practical step they can take today to start truly moving forward?
Heartbreak is, I think, one of the things that most people go through. I think everybody goes through a certain heartbreak in their life. And I am a firm believer that we sometimes have to crack in order for that light to shine through.
Yeah.
And this is coming from someone who has experienced an enormous amount of heartbreaks and a lot of beliefs, whether it's love or just friendship or even business. Your heart can break in many different ways. There are many different things that impact us. But I do think the biggest heartbreak that comes a lot of the times is love and romance. And there is no, I know that there's a lot of commercializing and these new techniques on how to heal your heart in 5 easy steps. But the reality is, that is not real. The only way to heal is to feel. The heartbreak is uncomfortable, but it's in that discomfort that you genuinely find your own comfort. Without the heartbreaks, you are not able to tell many different things in your life. Light cannot exist without darkness, and darkness can't exist without light either. They both coincide. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy, right? We've all experienced it. It's painful, but it's in each time that we go through that heartbreak. I don't know about you guys, but there's so much that you realize about yourself. There has been probably many times where you felt like you were not going to be able to bounce back. Maybe you were feeling defeated, like you're not going to be able to love again. And then you surprise yourself because with time you healed again and you loved again and you continued again and you blossomed again and you grew. And that is part of life. Now, there is no way to avoid heartbreak. It's about learning how to navigate it when it happens, and also learning how to feel your feelings without allowing them to consume you and without also bypassing them, because there is a lot of spiritual bypassing in this community. People tell you have to get over it eventually. No, everyone's on their own journey. Don't ever let someone tell you when you need to get over something and when you don't. Everyone's on their own healing journey, and heartbreak is the biggest teacher. Darkness will always be the biggest teacher because it's the part of you that's being challenged the most in order to bring awareness. And there is no way around it. If you want love, you also have to understand that there's the possibility of heartbreak in the other side. I say possibility because not always you're going to get hurt. Some things are not too good to be true. Some things are real and you're meant to enjoy them. So, this is why we say
No, I have
heal.
to self sabotage it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another subject. That's why I say heal, so that when someone's trying to love you, you let them. Because
Yeah.
eventually, if you hang out around people, a lot of hurt, you become that hurt and you feel like everyone outside is hurting you. So then you walk around with this shield and then you go, I feel alone. I feel like nobody loves me. These are the inner critics, like the shadows, the ego are telling you these things. When in reality, yes, there are people that are unaligned and that do come into your vicinity to teach you things about your own self. And it's not always that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes they're coming into your vicinity to teach you what love is not. Sometimes the lesson's not for you, but for them. So this is where discernment comes in, right? But you cannot avoid heartbreak, because in avoiding heartbreak, you're also breaking your heart. There is no avoiding anything in life. You will go through what you're meant to go through. Just like nobody can escape death, which is such a like a crazy subject that a lot of people are fearful of, right? But it's inevitable. Just like in order to experience love, eventually you have to experience the opposite, which is sometimes hurt. And again, this is not to say that's all you'll experience, but the way to get to the love that you deserve and desire sometimes entails going through that heartbreak road and figuring out what you don't want. And I don't know about you guys, but I know for me personally, if I did not go through my last relationship and I didn't experience all of that, I would have never been able to genuinely identify what healthy is, what it isn't, what I'm capable of, what I don't like. I would have never known myself as much as I do now. So, of course, in the moment, it didn't feel like that. I'm not gonna lie. It felt terrible. But looking into it now, when you heal, you look at it as empowerment and you learn to respect that and use that as an ally towards your journey. So the only way through heartbreak is through it, right? So processing. I know that social media tells you, oh, go get someone new. There's about 50 million people. No, no, no. Heal, take time. And when I say heal, I don't mean like you need to do anything crazy. Just spend time with yourself, grieve whatever you need to grieve, and don't close yourself off. Even if you experience really painful things, the best thing you can do is not allow people and outside circumstances to change your heart for the worse. So you still remain intact in who you are and integrity. You feel your feelings, you grieve, you mourn, and you make something out of that. And then you use that and you apply it when someone new comes into your life. So don't close yourself off to love after heartbreak, but also don't push yourself to go look for it immediately after either. Take time and eventually you will know. That inspired action will come. Maybe you'll go to the gym and boom, there you meet someone unexpectedly and it just clicks. So, my advice is go through the heartbreak, feel the feelings, take however long you need to, and also hold yourself accountable. Healing is your responsibility. The rest is not. What other people do to you is not your responsibility, but how you heal from it is. So you can either sink in heartbreak or grow and eventually allow yourself to lead you to the person that's meant for you or the people that are meant for you.
I love that you said that you have to crack for the light to shine through. I swear you have like telepathy or something. It's very interesting how, as we're talking and going through this, just how we're aligned in these different areas. Have you ever heard of kintsugi or kintsukori?
No, actually.
So I got turned on to this yesterday, speaking to somebody who's acting like a mentor to me in the moment. And so it's Japanese pottery, and they call it golden repair or golden joinery. And each time the pot breaks, right, it cracks. They fill it with gold. And so
Gold.
I
Yeah.
put a link down below in the comments so everybody can click on that, check it out, and so you can see what it looks like. But it'll be like a black pot, and it's cracked
Mhm.
in all these different places, and each one of those cracks has all of this gold mixed in throughout, right? There's all this veining that's going through it. It's so familiar to just our own personal experiences and the things that we go through. You can imagine your heart, and each time that it's broken and what you go through, you have all this pain and this agony, the defeat, the frustration, irritation, sadness, loneliness, depression. But within that is that healing process. When we go through that healing process, that's the adding of the gold into the broken pot. What you're doing is you're fortifying it, you're making it stronger, you're learning the lessons, you're growing, you're expanding, you're developing, you're allowing it to form you and shape you and change you, not for the worse, but for the better in the long term. Ultimately, it makes you stronger. I know for a lot of us, it's really hard to get there because it's no, but I'm in the pain and I don't feel like I'm strong. And but you will be,
Mhm.
and you can be. And that's part of why we do what we do here, is to build that strength and the resilience and acknowledging that, yes, we went through a lot of hard things, but what you do with that information is up to you. You can let it lead you down this path that nobody really wants to go down, or you can use this information to help build you up into a more resilient and stronger person.
Mhm.
Releasing fear and limiting beliefs. Fear often keeps us stuck in old patterns. How can someone begin to shift out of fear out of fear-based thinking and step into an abundance mindset?
So that's another great question, too. I think a lot of the components of this matrix is really made out of fear. This 3D mentality is all about fear. That's the way they keep control. And fear is connected to your sacral chakra, which we all have. And it's the where we carry guilt, shame, fear. And a lot of it doesn't always even come from us. It's a lot of the conditioning that we are brought up in. So it's in the commercials, it's in the movies. There's always a lot of fear. And the biggest fear that I see people, including myself, is the fear of not surviving and not having a roof over our head or not having food in our bellies or not being safe. Because there's one thing that human wants is to feel safe. And fear blocks us from receiving because it blocks our sacral chakra. And that's our energy point, right? That's the womb for women. But also for men is the womb where they came from. So it's an extension of that energy. So fear blocks our ability to receive, whether it's because we're struggling with guilt, shame, we unworthiness, right? All of that stuck in there in the sacral. And the way to tackle fear is by facing the fear. And I know people are like, oh, tell me something new. No, but I don't think we genuinely understand that because it's really easy to go about life and avoid fear. It's not easy to sit with fear. This is what a lot of people say as demons. And I'm going to get a little controversial, maybe, I don't know. But I feel like it's safe to do. You know how people in religion, they consider demons like an outside thing, right? There's demons lower. In spirituality, we say that's lower vibration. There's high vibration, low vibration. Everything's in different dimensions. You have lower dimensions, higher dimensions. There is no demon outside of you that doesn't exist already inside of you. And what people consider demons are just shadow aspects of ourselves, the limiting beliefs around us, the fears, the things that hold us hostage and prohibit us from living our life authentically with peace, harmony, in truth, in alignment, in love. So, fear essentially is just an inner demon. It's an inner thing that holds us hostage, whether you're fearful of flight, guilty. Whether you're fearful of love or going without or being scarce, right? There's all kinds of different fear. On the other side of fear is love. So the only way to tackle fear is through face it, acknowledge it, and what? Give it love. A lot of the times the fears are coming up. 99% of the fears don't end up happening. The only way they actually end up happening is because we give it so much power that we actually create it.
Through the
We,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah, we create it. We get so attached to the fear that we create our own misery sometimes. And again, this is not to spiritual bypass because there's a lot of that going on in the spiritual community, but there is what we call creative accountability. So we do also have to be accountable for the situations that we also sometimes put ourselves in. Because sometimes we know we just don't want to face it, or we don't want to admit to it, or we don't want to let go. So then we have to forgive ourselves, but we also have to take creative accountability. And I feel like a lot of people avoid fear, right? That this is a huge part of my work is helping people navigate their shadow aspects and their fears, their limiting beliefs. And a lot of that means sitting with yourself. You have to know yourself. This world is not about the world, it's about you. So if you want to create change, you have to start with you. And what does that mean? You have to understand yourself. So you have to know your shortcomings because when you don't know your shortcomings, when you don't know your fears, when you don't make peace with them, they take a hold of you. And then that's when they become volatile. It's not it's not an issue when you address it. When you look at yourself and you go, damn, maybe I am sometimes a little envious. Oh, the fear is being around people that are successful because I'm afraid that if I celebrate them, I won't be successful. So my fear is I don't want to be around people. I don't like that. I don't want to be successful, right? Sometimes the fear with people is not that they won't experience love, but that they will. Because then, oop, the fear is I'm not worthy of it. Oop, it'll go away. Oop, I don't trust myself with that. That's too much responsibility. So the only way to go through fear, you have to understand yourself, you have to face it, and then love it, which is what we call integration. And that's a huge part of shadow work and inner child work. And a lot of fears actually don't come from this lifetime. A lot of fears come from previous lifetimes beyond. And they're just being made manifest in this one or carried out. This is what we call karmic contracts, right? But your responsibility, like I've said before, is healing. And part of healing is taking a look at yourself and saying, okay, maybe I need to work on my jealousy. Maybe I need to work on my rigidness. Maybe I need to work on the control problems. I'm not pinning myself down. I'm not saying I'm a bad person because the inner critic can be like that sometimes. You say, I love myself, even in the midst of this, and I make peace with it. I'm going to improve. I love myself and I'm still worthy. And that's really how you overcome fears is you have to face them. Avoiding it only builds deeper fears and bigger mountains to climb. When you are connected to source, to the most high, to your higher self, you understand that there isn't anything that's not an aspect of you. Therefore, even as big as your fear may seem, it's an aspect of you, which means to a certain extent you have control of it. So it's not how you respond to it, not how you react to it, it's how you respond to that. But you have to face it. There's no way around it. I know there's a lot of BS on social media that tells you you have to feel it the same way to heal it. You have to face it, and then you'll make peace with it.
Eventually.
Hmm. It takes
Yeah,
time.
it
It takes
does.
time.
Takes as long as it takes. So this is feeding nicely into a question on self-love and receiving abundance. Many people feel
Hmm.
uncomfortable receiving love, success, and support. What's a
Yeah.
simple way to start practicing receiving?
Oh, this is another great one. I practice this actually all the time. So when you're having a tough time receiving, sometimes people think, oh, receiving, like we think of receivership as like big things, like a large sum of money, a car, like an opportunity. But receiving can be as simple as someone giving you a compliment
A
and you
hug.
accepting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And saying thank you. And if that makes you uncomfortable, I know for me back in the day when someone said, oh, you're pretty or oh, you're talented, I used to cringe at that. I used to be like, no, that used to be my response. And of course, you don't want to be egotistical and egocentric either, but you want to acknowledge the beauty that someone else is also acknowledging in you. And you want to say thank you for that and receive that. So if you're struggling, and this is a practice that I give to women specifically because it's a lot of feminine energy, but I always encourage women if you feel uncomfortable receiving, let's start off easy. So let's go ahead and start by maybe putting ourselves out there. So let's go take a walk in a place where it's public. And I want you to observe how you feel because people will stare at you because they're staring at energy. They're staring at beauty too, but they're staring at energy. And I want you to walk down the street with confidence. If it makes you uncomfortable, good. We're healing that wound of being seen. We're healing our solar plexus. We're healing the ability because a lot of us want to be seen, but we don't want to receive the praise. So, how do you expect yourself to be seen? So, the biggest thing I used to do to practice is I used to go outside on my walks and I used to walk with a lot of confidence. And confidence means you're just opening your energy. You're like feeling confident in your body, right? So, there used to be this shame. I used to wear sports bras a lot and my workout pants. And just that would make me feel uncomfortable. If people stared, I used to be like ashamed and I just wanted to hide in a corner. And I was like, okay, this is also not normal, right? It's not normal for me to run like that. I should be able to enjoy myself and live life and feel great in my own energy. So I started taking walks and opening my energy. What I mean by opening my energy is allowing myself to be received, to be seen. People wanted to stare. And when I did this, people started saying hi. I started saying hello. They said, oh, I love your energy. Thank you. I love your energy too. I see you too. You start having a little pep on your step. It's silly, but it's allowing you to get comfortable little by little because we're healing the inner child. And that is a very delicate subject. Healing the inner child is very delicate. There's an aspect of you that is about a 5-year-old child. And if you go to a child and you go, "You're so beautiful, you're this, you're that," it's gonna get scared. So we want to go little by little saying, "You're beautiful. Good job. This is amazing. I'm so proud of you." Sometimes you do have to baby yourself. So going on a walk allows you to get that exposure of being admired, which there's nothing wrong. You're a beautiful being with great energy. Why shouldn't someone recognize that? Why shouldn't they say, "Oh my God, you're talented. You look amazing today. I'm so happy for you. I want to be friends with you." So, this is a really easy, good practice. A lot of women do this in dressing up and they take themselves out on a date. Because let's be honest, how many of us actually take ourselves on a date and sit by ourselves? Right? But some of us feel very uncomfortable with that. I've seen people that get social anxiety doing that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to work with yourself. You want to get so comfortable with yourself and in the receiving, because that's the only way you're going to attract opportunities, is if you believe and you accept and you receive. And you also have to be willing to give, right? In order to receive, you have to also be willing to give. So not being afraid of seeing a beautiful woman or a handsome man and just saying, "Hey, I like your energy. I like your shoes," or whatever it is. So you're practicing. It's a little thing you can do to use your empowerment. And men can do this too, right? But it's more of that feminine energy of going on a walk and looking cutesy and whatever. But it works. It works wonders. It gets you acquainted with the energy of receiving and being seen as well.
This will be the last question. And this is under faith, surrender, and letting go. Surrender is a key part of abundance, but it can also feel scary. How do you practice surrender in your own life, and how can others learn to trust the process?
Yeah, surrender for me was huge. And it's still tough at times. Like I said, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And part of surrender is rooted in faith. That's really what it is. I notice that the people who have the hardest time surrendering, it is due to the lack of faith that they have within themselves, divinity, or just the general plan of life. And I feel like the more you build trust in the universe, in yourself, in the journey, you start letting go. Because there is what we call, there's only so much you can do before you have to surrender and let go. Because it's also understanding that some things are in your control, whilst other things are not in your control. There's only so much you can do before the universe, everything in life starts telling you to surrender. And because doors will shut and restrictions will be placed and things will happen. But I think surrender is the biggest act of love that exists because you also understand you've done the best you can. Now there's nothing else you can do. Now you're handing it over to a higher power and you're trusting that it's always taking care of you and everyone around you. I'll circle back to the topic and I'll just end it at this. At the beginning of today's session, we talked about how we want things to happen and sometimes we're pushing for it and sometimes we don't know why they're not happening. We're all connected. So if you're asking for something, odds are somehow it affects me in my journey. So the divine is essentially orchestrating to make sure that everyone's plan is in union with the bigger plan. So surrender comes in when there's other things at play that are not yet ready. And it's difficult for the human mind to grasp that and to understand it because we're so fixated on the now and getting satisfaction now. But when you're living in your soul, that kind of flies out the window because now you're in collective consciousness, you're connected to everything. So you're like, "Oh, it's not just about me." The ego says it's about me, but spirit says it's about all of us. So I have to also have compassion towards my fellow friends because they're also going through their own journey. Surrender is huge, but it's an act of faith.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
I 100% agree. Surrender is absolutely everything.
Mhm.
And when you do that, you set yourself free from your self imposed mental prison.
Yeah.
It's a process, it's difficult. You have to know who and what you're surrendering to and why. But when you
Hmm.
figure that out for yourself, it
Yeah.
sets you free.
Yeah. Yeah. You carry less of that burden, I think is what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we do have a couple questions in the chat. Sheree says, what if you have too much of that kind of attention? How do you get comfortable with that attention?
That's a valid question because I feel like social media and people make it such a bad thing if you do get a lot of attention. I don't think that's a bad thing. It just means that your sacral chakra and your solar plexus are really open. It means that people are seeing, a lot of the times, people are fixated on the physical. But have you ever looked at a person and you go, oh my God, they're just so beautiful? I don't know what it is about them, but they just have such an amazing energy. It's usually the energy. You don't want to tap, you don't want to tame that. You never want to dock yourself down to make it comfortable for other people. Other people's reactions are not your responsibility. Your responsibility is what you think of yourself. So if you're getting a lot of attention, that's not an issue. It's okay to get attention. It's about embracing the attention and also learning how to direct it, right? I'm not sure if you're referring to sexual attention. So that kind of depends. Maybe you can clarify, but the attention, how people react to you is not your responsibility. You're not going to stop being you out of fear of that. And you shouldn't be fearful if people admire you and tell you things about yourself. That's not a bad thing. So there doesn't need to be any guilt or shame around that.
And then we got Connie up next. I'm going to spotlight you.
Hi, can you see me?
I
We can.
yes.
What's up, Connie?
Hi.
How are
Okay,
you?
great. So, a couple of things. Good, thank you. A couple of things. My comment was I'm not always comfortable with it, but I do it anyway. That was in regards to taking myself out.
Hmm.
And that actually stemmed from some really bad heartbreak.
Yeah.
It's me putting myself out there, just like you spoke of before. Like you gotta bring the energy that you want. But I do have a question about the surrendering piece, which seems to be difficult, especially when you're stuck in the old stories, that you're
Hmm.
telling yourself. And I would just ask, do you have any recommendations on how you would start to be more open to it? Is it looking for evidence in small things where maybe you say, all right, you know what, I'm just going to let the universe handle this and see how it works out? I still struggle with that. I still get caught up in those old patterns of thinking and afraid to just let go.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you for your question. I think all of that's really valid. And the universe, God, whoever you resonate with, spirit is really reassuring and really loving. So anytime you need that extra reassurance, I always tell people the connection with the divine is the same way that you would establish a connection with me or any other person that you love and you're trying to build a relationship with. So if you ask, you will receive. And if you need that reassurance and you need that validation, the universe is more than happy and willing to reassure you towards that. And it's okay to ask for that. It's okay to say, God, I'm letting this go. I'm trusting that you're going to handle it. And also, I am a little bit afraid. I am learning, I am healing, I'm growing. I need reassurance. And this can come up in many different ways. This could be through a message that maybe Jason gives, and then you all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, there's my confirmation, my clarity, my peace. This could come as a little thing such as a bird, or you feeling a state of peace, or you listening to a song. So it can come in many different ways. And this is what we call confirmation and reassurance, right? Just like we ask each other for reassurance, you ask that in a partnership. You say, hey, I'm feeling a little insecure right now. Here's how I'm feeling. I'm just looking for reassurance. That's okay. I don't think we normalize that enough. And one thing I learned working closely with spirit is that everybody has a spirit team and guides. And it's okay for you to ask for help. You have ancestors, you have spirit teams, you have angels, you have a group of allies, spiritually and also physically, that are able to help you. So anytime you have questions, just be open to that. The reassurance will always
Hmm.
come through a person, through a thing, or whatever it may be. And it's okay to ask for that. It's okay to build that relationship and to receive that as confirmation as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Sheree had put in there, what is the Kabbalah and how do you develop a belief in yourself?
So the Kabbalah is like a spiritual practice, primarily Jewish, and very interesting, right? It basically talks about the 72 names of God, which is the component of the universe in which all things are made up. And now there's a lot, right? There's spirituality. Spirituality, it really is all one and the same, just worded very differently. And I think the Kabbalah basically talks about a lot of manifestation and how to be of service to others. So that's why I referenced it a lot, because I do try to practice that as much as I can, of being of service. But the one thing the Kabbalah helps you with is manifestation and figuring out the what and why, and then just allowing the universe to deliver in a way. And then the second question was, which one? Remind me again.
How do you develop a belief in yourself?
Ooh, okay. That's a good one. How do you develop belief in yourself? I would say one of the biggest ways that I personally have developed more of a belief in myself and a stable foundation is by looking at all the shadow aspects of myself. Because if you really think about it, you already love yourself. The fact that you are wanting to do better and love yourself is an act of self love. Otherwise, you wouldn't have loved yourself. So you do believe in yourself. So when it comes to believing more, the only time we don't believe in ourselves is because of those shadow aspects, because we think we're not good enough. We
Yeah.
think we're not worthy enough. So the best way to believe in yourself is to tackle those fears and those beliefs. The more you do that and the more you make peace with it, the more you understand that they're just illusions. They're just preventing you from receiving that love, from receiving those things, and from feeling worthy. So the best way I've worked with on worthiness and deserving and believing in myself is by tackling the beliefs that tell me I can't believe in myself in the first place. And that has allowed me to make a lot of peace and feel more confident in who I am, and also help other people do that as well.
Yeah, you always hear me say the first step is making yourself a priority physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and then
Mhm.
developing a habit around each of those things each and every day, and
Yes.
then doing it consistently over long periods of time. What you're doing is you're making a commitment to yourself. As you
Yeah.
do it over those long periods of time, it just becomes a part of who you are. It becomes a habit, and you don't question it. You don't really have to think about it because this is just what I do. This is who I have become now, and you
Hmm.
feel more capable, competent, and confident within the container, the avatar that is you. And it takes time, but you have to develop those practices and those habits to really be in support of yourself.
I agree.
Paula, I can't thank you enough. I think this is like our fourth thing that we've done, and I love interacting with you every single time. Tell everybody how they can reach you, work with you, and listen to the podcast.
Of course. So first, thank you so much, Jason, for inviting me yet again. I really
Of
do
course.
enjoy doing these podcasts and sharing and helping as much as I can. And the best way that you guys can support me is through social media. So Paula Michelle on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And right now, I'm not currently taking sessions. That might change here in a couple weeks. I was taking sessions and clients, but decided to put that on a pause for a little bit and focus on content creation. So for now, the best way you can support is just through liking, sharing, following my content, and also saying hi. I love socializing with people and things like that and becoming friends. So don't be a stranger. Don't be afraid to say hi and say hello or have any questions
Yeah,
or
for
any
sure.
even recommendations of episodes or content to create.
Yep. All the links will be down below, guys. Paula, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you guys.
Everybody else, we will see you tomorrow. Who do we have tomorrow? Tomorrow we have Mary Catherine McDonald, author of Unbroken, The Trauma Response is Never Wrong. She is a trauma researcher, and she has a new book coming out here
Mhm.
shortly on joy. So don't miss tomorrow. Jody says thanks. Thanks, Jody. All right, guys. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
guys.
and we'll see y'all again tomorrow.